the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast with your host, Jackie Pilosoff.
No one should have to go through a divorce feeling alone and isolated. That's why I created the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast. Every show is 30 minutes, and the guests are my Divorced Girl Smiling trusted professionals. They're so wonderful. Financial advisors, divorce attorneys, mediators, divorce coaches, therapists, and more. We talk about every subject that you can even think of having to do with divorce. The podcast is meant to empower you and inspire you and make you feel really, really confident so that you can have a good divorce outcome and a great post-divorce life. You can find the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast pretty much anywhere podcasts can be found, and always at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and start smiling. Before we get started, I want to tell you about two Divorced Girl Smiling trusted professionals who I think are wonderful. The first one is certified divorce coach and pre-mediation divorce coach Janine Marie Powell. Janine is the founder of her practice, SOS Divorce Coaching. She understands the struggles and heartaches associated with divorce, both on a personal and professional level. She went through her own painful divorce several years ago, and she said even though she had a really good attorney and therapist and support from family and friends, she still felt alone and paralyzed. Janine has been a divorce coach for several years. She can help you make good decisions, offer you support, and help you have a better divorce outcome. I love Janine. I truly, truly trust her. If you want to learn more, you can find her at sosdivorcecoach.com. I also want to tell you about a wonderful divorce attorney in North Carolina named Teresa Vieira. Teresa is the founder of her practice, Modern Legal. She's an arbitrator, a certified mediator, and a divorce lawyer. And I've known her now for a couple years and think the world of her. She built her practice through hard work and good results. If you want to learn more about Teresa, you can find her at modernlegalnc.com. And you can find both Janine and Teresa in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. Everybody I have ever talked to, I know this is a blanketed statement, but I really, truly believe this, always says if they're getting divorced, I'm worried about the kids. I hope the kids are going to be okay. I really don't want this to affect the kids. And yet, in so many divorces, kids end up in the middle. They hear their parents fighting. They hear their parents communicating in a really negative, awful way. And so I'm not blaming you if you're listening to this and saying, oh, you're judging me. And I'm not judging anybody because I did it too. I put my kids in the middle of my divorce at certain times. It's not a good thing to do. And what we're going to talk about today is how to keep your kids out of the divorce. Because even if they already are in it, you can get them out of it. You can always start now, just doing these things and using the tools we're going to help you with today to keep your kids out of the divorce, because they're going to end up so much healthier and so much happier if you're able to do that. To talk about this is my guest, Erik Feig. Erik is a divorce mediator. He's the founder of Feig Mediation Group. He's also a certified co-parenting specialist and a disability-informed professional. Hi, Erik.
Hi, Jackie. Thanks for having me back.
Well, always nice to have you, and I know that you are so passionate about this topic. So, do you agree with what I'm saying? Like, everybody who comes to see you probably says, I really don't want my kids to be affected by this. And then yet they say things in front of the kids or while the kids are there to the spouse, and they are putting in the kids in the middle without even realizing it.
Look, when folks are going through their divorce or they've been divorced or they're in a situation where they're in conflict with each other, it's so easy for that to take over everything, right? It invades your language, It invades your way you look at things. It invades the way everybody looks at each other. And it just it permeates things. So I think it's very easy for parents who don't want their kids and want them to be in the middle and want to be protective of them, don't realize that the kids still hear the language that they use. They're highly attuned to the way their parents talk with and about each other. I think it happens so often.
Even one look, like if a parent looks at a certain parent a certain way, the kids are looking, they're watching. They could be 2 years old and they pick up on it. And so I think that when people get divorced, they're so upset. They're thinking about themselves. They're devastated. They're hurt. They're in pain. They're suffering. And they have so much anger. And sometimes it's just really hard not to show it or feel it in front of the kids. So today, what we want to talk about are some good communication tips and even like structure, language, body language, things you can say to your kids. And then we'll get into how mediation is actually co-parenting coaching, in my opinion, because nobody ever told me that if you go to mediation, if you find the right mediator, you will also be getting co-parenting coaching, really.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's an opportunity to practice. And it's one of the things that I love most about being a mediator and helping people who are going through these really tough transitions and tough changes is when you're going through a process that is legal focused, it's competitive, it's adversarial, it's about who's going to win or who's going to win more, shifting away from that to a process like mediation, which is about how do you find solutions that are going to work and how do you build those solutions? Things that everybody can say yes to. That gives you practice that you just don't get when you're putting your arguments before a judge to make decisions for you. I say this as someone who used to be a practicing attorney. When the lawyers go home at the end of the legal process, whether you're doing motions, whether it's the divorce itself or something that comes after, when the lawyers go home, you're still the co-parents. You're always going to be the parents. And you don't learn necessarily through the legal process how to work together, but you do learn how to keep the battle going.
100%. Let's get into some examples of how people are putting their kids in the middle without even realizing it. Now, before the podcast, we were kind of talking about what we were going to talk about, and we
Mhm.
said well, a couple of examples were just something as simple as, oh, we can't do it that night. You're going to your dad's house. When someone says your dad, I believe that says my mom's angry, bitter, and doesn't like my dad. If you just say, "Oh, you're going to dad's house," that to me says they're still my parents, they're still a team, they still refer to each other as mom and dad like we're family because we still are. What do you think?
Oh, I think that's spot on. And even if you were able to say you get to go with the other parent, then it becomes something exciting. Look, the kids are, like we said, they're highly attuned. They're going to pay attention to your tone. They're going to pay attention to what you say. Imagine all those trigger words. You always, they never, right? Whether you're saying it directly or you're describing them in some negative way, when you say it, your eye rolls, the facial expressions, all of this go in sarcasm. Sarcasm is such a big tell, I think, for a lot of people. And all
Yes.
of these things are we don't necessarily do consciously. And when you mentioned before, Jackie, you mentioned anger before. I was thinking also the other emotions, grief, of sometimes feeling helpless, sometimes feeling, I'm done. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. All of those things come out and it all goes into how you're communicating with each other as parents and how you communicate with the kids. And I think that how is what we don't pay enough attention to sometimes. We pay a lot of attention to what we're saying, right? Are we talking about a schedule? Are we talking about logistics? What are we writing? What do we need to say, or what or when do we need to say it? But I don't think we spend as much time talking about how we say things, and that's really important too.
And that's probably something you learn in mediation. But I do want to say, with the right mediator, like for my listeners, Erik is a certified co parenting specialist. He knows how to do this. There are other mediators who are wonderful mediators, but their specialties are like complex finances for maybe people who don't have kids. So make sure when you're looking for a mediator, if you like what you're hearing from us, that you get one who specializes in co-parenting and communication. And actually, that's Erik. So feigmediationgroup.com. Okay, we need to take a break. You're listening to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. And today we are talking about putting your kids in the middle of your divorce, how to not do it, and tools for being better co parents. My guest is Erik Feig, mediator, co parenting specialist, and disability informed professional. When we come back, we're going to give you a couple more examples because I feel like we didn't give enough. And then we're going to talk about some tools and some things you can do and say to keep your kids out of the divorce. And it's going to benefit your kids, but guess what? It's also going to benefit you. So we'll be right back. I want to tell you about two Divorced Girl Smiling trusted professionals who are wonderful. The first is Affiliates in Counseling, which is a large therapy practice that has over 50 therapists. It was co-founded by Jason Price, an LMFT and a wonderful therapist himself. I have known Jason for almost 15 years, and he has been the therapist for a couple of my friends' children and has been wonderful. Cannot say enough about how professional, how wonderful, warm, caring, and compassionate he is. A lot of the therapists at Affiliates in Counseling deal with people going through a divorce, young adults, individuals, and families. If you want to learn more, they have offices in Northbrook and in Chicago, and their website is affiliatesincounseling.net. I also want to tell you about Colleen Breams, who is a wonderful divorce attorney and a partner at Bierman. I've known Colleen now for a couple years. She is great. She is so professional, so experienced, and so dedicated to helping men and women get a great divorce outcome. She's a litigator. She's a really, really good litigator if you need that, if you have a high asset complex divorce. But she also can help you mediate your divorce. Colleen is also a guardian ad litem. She's appointed by judges in Cook County. She's just a great person. If you want to learn more about Colleen, you can find her on the Bierman website, and you can find both Colleen and Affiliates in Counseling in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. Welcome back to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. And my guest today is divorce mediator Erik Feig. If you like what you're hearing, you can go to feigmediationgroup.com. You can also find Erik in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. Erik and I are talking about how to keep your kids out of the middle of your divorce. So let's just give a couple more examples so that people listening can be like, oh yeah, I do that. I didn't mean it, but I guess I do. Because again, we're not judging. We're not trying to tell you that we're so perfect and you're not. Believe me when I tell you I did my share of putting my kids in the middle. I regret it so much, and we want to help you. And it's never too late. So what else do they do?
Well, let's think about some of those legal terms that make their way into these discussions, right? When a parent is telling their child, "Oh, it's time for the other parent's visitation," right? Or "I have custody." words like that, whether they're telling it to the children, whether it's using those terms with each other, what does that do? It turns the kids on one level into more of a thing than a person, right? It's something that I have it or you have it, right? Who
Well,
has them?
who visits their kids? Visitation sounds like you're going to a nursing home to visit an elderly person. Visitation is not visiting your kids. So instead of dad has visitation, how about, or your dad has visitation, how about you're going to dad's house? Aren't you excited? Hey, I heard he got some new games.
It's
Whatever.
it's dad's time. It's mom's time. And again, I love using the word you get to have time with. It's a good thing. How do you turn it into something that's positive for each of you from your kid's perspective? It's like asking them, look, asking parents, and this is something that sometimes in mediation we talk about, what is it that you want your kids to remember of these times, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now? They're not going to remember all the details of your battles, but they are going to remember how they felt while all of this was going on. They're going to remember the time you're spending, who shows up. Do you both show up? When do you show up? Are you there for what's important? And what was it like when you were there?
Okay, Erik, I love this. And let's just talk for 1 second before we get to the tools. If somebody's spouse cheated, we understand that you are so angry, that you are so hurt and in pain, and you want to slap your ex husband and say, how could you have done this to us? But if you really think about what Erik just said, what do you want your kids to remember when they're grown ups and they're getting married for the first time, or hopefully the only time? Do you want them to remember that your mom always thought your dad was a cheater and treated him awful? And you could tell, because I'll tell you what, people always say to me, like, but I want my kids to know that their father caused this divorce. And what I tell them is, your kids know. Whether they know a little bit because they're young, they're going to know when they grow up. They're not stupid. They will know. They picked up on it, but you don't have to tell them a thing and they'll know. Do you agree with me?
I think it's important that we separate out the times when we're speaking from a place of hurt, a place that's wounded, from a place that might be healing, or being able to put our kids first and being sure that no matter what's being said, it's not putting them in the middle. Sometimes that language gives conflict to the kids. It takes the conflict that's going on between the parents, it passes it down to them, and it passes it down in many ways. Look, it could be having them feel like, who are they going to be loyal to? Who's the good person? Who's the bad person in one of these, in a situation? Or it could also be trusting later, learning how to deal with disagreements, learning how to do all the ways there's many people who could speak about this much better than I can, but it flows down to them. So I think, Jackie, some of what you're saying is also separating out the work that the parents have to do on themselves and with each other from what they want their kids to be exposed to and to experience, and their language, the way they act, their affect, what they present themselves at can make all the difference in that.
And I think when you said work on themselves, Erik, you mean like get the support that they need. Because if you get a therapist or you have a divorce coach that you can tell how you're feeling, then you're going to have a separate place for those feelings, because sharing them with the kids or acting in a passive aggressive way to your ex is showing your kids the anger. And if you can work with someone else to work through that, it's so much better for your kids and really better for you.
I see and I hear all the time in mediation with people that I work with how isolating things can be, and what a difference it can make when they feel like they have resources, like they have support, like they have a team that can help them, that they can rely on and reach out to. It can make a huge difference. And I see it when they bring it to we do things online, to the virtual room, when we're doing the mediation, all the benefits that come from being able to do that. So yeah, when I say work, I mean all of that. I mean it in the biggest sense.
Okay, let's move on to some things, some tips, tools that you think parents can benefit from to keep their kids out of the divorce.
Look, I think there's so many tools that are helpful. I think first and foremost, look, is recognizing that whether you're divorcing or you're divorced, you're not spouses anymore. You're co-parents, and you're going to be co-parents for the rest of your kids' lives. From their point of view, you're still going to be the parents. And that means that you have to, in the ideal sense, find a way to work together no matter how you're feeling about each other. So I think one of those shifts that's very helpful is being able to shift into more of a mindset where, it's more businesslike. You're having interactions that are different but necessary.
And so, for people listening who are at that point where they're so angry and they think there's no way, I'm telling you, there is a way. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of patience, but also the biggest thing is that time has to go by. The feelings you're feeling at the beginning of your divorce, I promise you don't think this, but they will fade. And then the co-parenting part comes easier. But if you decide to go to court and battle this out, those scars might be there forever. And then you'll never be able to be good co-parents because there's way too much hostility and toxicity that happened during the divorce. Versus if you go to mediation and you both craft a parenting plan and a financial plan and you come to agreements that you both feel are fair and you came up with it, you're going to be complying with the agreement more. So the chances of post litigation go out the door. And you're going to be more, as the time fades, you'll be able to be co parents so much easier.
One of the things I think is so powerful about mediation is that it's forward looking. Almost all that we do in mediation is about the future. As a mediator, I can't do a whole lot about how you got to where you are, right? As parents, as people who are divorced, I can't do anything about the past. But what I can do as a mediator is help you have a structured discussion that is done in a way geared towards solutions. So it's not just talking about things, it's talking about how you deal with issues. And when you're doing that in the context of parenting, when you're talking about communication, for instance, you're talking about how you're going to communicate and what is the structure, timing, ways you're going to do it, and what are you going to talk about? How do you make it work? That's that I think by itself, it moves you into a problem solving mode. And problem people do better, I think, once they're starting to problem solve. They're bringing all of that power that they have and all of that experience about what works and doesn't work. And now it says, let's create something that can work.
Okay, but Erik, I have a question. Are you ever in mediation sessions where someone will say something like, I just have to get this off my chest. I
Hmm.
can't believe that you cheated again with this woman and we thought we were working on the marriage, and brings up something about the past. Are you one of the mediators who says, well, we're really focused here on the future? Or do you say, it's okay, get it off your chest, then we'll be able to move forward?
Sometimes you can't look at the future without doing some time looking at the past. So if it's important and if it's helpful, we do have those conversations. What we don't do is get stuck in them. And I think that's an important thing. And that's where sometimes folks need someone that's not involved in the conflict, not involved in the events, to help them refocus that lens so we can talk about it in a way that hopefully is constructive and then move forward from there, not just stay there where the tendency might be to just keep going back and forth on any of those issues like you're raising, Jackie. But then to be able to say, all right, we're here now. Now what? How do we move forward?
Erik. Erik's a great mediator, everybody. I just have to say that. I can just feel it. And I already know, well, I've known you for 2.5 years. So, okay. What other tools? So, the first one you told us was you have to recognize that you're going to be co parents forever. You're no longer spouses, but you'll be in each other's lives. Accept it. And that's what it is. What else?
Be intentional. I know that's one of those words that we throw out a lot, but I think one of the most difficult situations is that those drive-by calls, texts, emails, whatever they are, that kind of come out of nowhere, they catch you off guard, and they say, I need an answer immediately. And the first reaction, of course, is someone might get their back up or they'll respond a little more hotly than they would otherwise. So be intentional. And what that also means is have some structure. If that means scheduling a time, I don't know, every week, couple times a week, having a basic agenda. What are we going to talk about? So let's say it might be about what's going on with the kids in school. What do we need to know? Medical questions. What's going on with their friends? What kind of emotional things are going on that when the kids are going between the parents, what do they need to know? What do they want to know? What's helpful to know? And not just the problems. What are the good things that happen with them that you want the other parent to know so that when the kid comes in, when your child comes in, you can ask them about it and be excited about it. So I think structure, having those basic agendas as a starting place to say, all right, every week we're going to have a 15 or 20-minute phone call, Zoom, FaceTime, whatever it is to get there.
Instead of a quick, Joey failed his math test, just FYI, you know, like an emergency, like it just you send a text like off the flying off the handle because you're so mad. Instead, have a scheduled time, make a list of the things you want to talk about and say, if I can wait till Wednesday, I can tell him about Joey's failed math test. But there's other things to discuss. Maybe Joey did something really good too.
I think being able to talk about the positives as well are so important. And then if you're doing that, then the things that come up in between times, you can deal with quickly. Maybe it is just a text, it's an update. Something's changed. It's not necessarily loaded the same way if that's what your baseline way of communicating is. And I would say going along with that structure, a lot of folks use shared calendars for the kids so that everybody knows what's going on. And if there's something that a parent is signing their child up for, whether it crosses over to the other parent's time or not, you both have the big picture.
I got divorced in 2008, so there was no such thing as shared calendars. Technology was way different than it is now. I think that technology is a gift because if you can just look, you're not going to have these mistakes of, um, oh, I thought it was Wednesday. You told me it was Wednesday. Oh, no, I told you it was Thursday. Oh, no, you told me it was Wednesday. You can just like go to your phone, look it up for yourself. You don't have to contact your ex. Everybody can see if you need to make changes. If you want to switch schedules, you can ask. That's wonderful, wonderful technology.
I'm going to make a suggestion in that way also when you talk about these tools. I'm sure you hear this all the time, Jackie, also that a lot of folks will use these tools to make records of what the communications are. Right? We do it this way so that there's a record. So what's in the back of the mind there? I'm going to use this in the next conflict or the next time there's a disagreement. I have my evidence, I'm lining it up. What if there was a shift in the mindset of recognizing as well that, well, some people do better hearing things verbally. Some people need it written down. You know what? If we talked about it last week, I might not remember the details of what we talked about.
Right. Everybody has so much going on.
So
So,
get in
yeah.
the habit of when you have these conversations, maybe it's a quick note or something to say it's a recap. Here's what I understood coming out of our conversation. Here's what the thing to do is. And then if that's not correct, the other parent can then say, "Oh no, that's not what, here's the tweak. Here's what we talked about." And then they're both back on track with each other, and it's not lining up waiting for that gotcha moment later on.
Okay, Erik, we have time for one more tip. How can people keep their kids out of the middle of the divorce?
I think sometimes it's important to just focus on them, and not sometimes, I'll say focus on them whenever you can and what they need first. That's that's the bottom line. If you need to say something, less is more sometimes. Don't get into the attacks and just be clear. What is it? Is there something to do? Who's doing it? When will it get done? Or when does it need to be done? And then we can move on. Just put an end to all the back and forth.
Love it, Erik. Thank you so much for taking time to be on the show.
I'm so glad we had the chance to talk about this, Jackie. Thanks for having me.
Well, I can definitely sense your passion for helping people and your professionalism as a co-parenting coach as well as a mediator. Well, I was going to say you're not a certified co-parenting specialist. How is that different than a certified co-parenting coach?
Well, what I do isn't coaching. I take my focus on putting the kids first, keeping them out of the middle, and I use that in the mediation. And I help all of the families that I get to work with to keep the lens hopefully in the right place while we're doing it.
Love it. If you want to learn more or talk to Erik, you can find him at feigmediationgroup.com. And you can also find him at divorcedgirlsmiling.com under trusted professionals under mediators. You can also go to Divorced Girl Smiling to listen to more podcasts, read articles, or sign up for my free 30-minute consult. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you real soon.